Hi, my name is Mel, and I've come across a rather, how can I say, at best, a very strange um, conspiracy theory. The claim is that the auroras are at least impartial or totally caused by HAARP. I mean, the high altitude area, that thing. The one where they the HAARP one, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, that HAARP, all right? So, why on earth are they claiming this is beyond me? But anyway, look, so what is an aurora, first of all? It's a dynamic glowing display of light in the sky caused by basically a cosmic game of pinball between the sun and the earth. So look, this is a step-by-step process, right? An aurora is not a single event, but a continuous chain reaction that starts millions of kilometers away. The sun releases solar wind. The sun continuously sheds a stream of plasma and charged particles into space. The Earth's magnetosphere blocks the wind. This solar wind, or plasma and charged particles, races towards the Earth. It hits the planet's protective magnetic field. The field deflects most of the harmful radiation away into deep space. Energy builds in the magnetotail. Some of these solar particles leak into the sides of the magnetic field and drift down to the tail end of the field on Earth's night side. This energy builds up like a stretched rubber band. Magnetic reconnection snaps the field. When the tension becomes too high, the magnetic lines snap and reconnect. This snapping flings the trapped solar particles back toward Earth at incredibly high speeds. Particles follow field lines to the poles. Accelerated particles travel along Earth's magnetic highways, and these highways converge directly at the north and south magnetic poles. Collisions in the ionosphere create light. The high-speed particles plunge into Earth's upper atmosphere, crashing into local gas atoms. The energy from these crashes transforms into the light we see from the ground. So solar wind, as I said, is a continuous high stream of charged particles, mostly electrons and protons, ejected from the sun's outermost atmospheric layer, traveling through space of up to speeds of 800 kilometers per second. Coronal mass ejection, or CME, a massive sudden burst or blast of billions of tons of solar plasma ejected from the sun. When a CME hits Earth, it causes much more intense auroras than the standard solar wind does. Magnetosphere, it's a sort of an invisible bubble of magnetism caused by our iron core surrounding Earth, generated by our planet's molten iron core, as I said. It shields the planet from destructive solar radiation. If we didn't have it, we'd all be dead and wouldn't exist. There you go. Magnetotail, an elongated portion of Earth's magnetosphere that gets stretched out into a long tail on the far side facing away from the sun, trailing like a windsock. Auroral oval, a ring-shaped region around each of the Earth's magnetic poles. So we're talking magnetic south and magnetic north, where auroral activity occurs the most frequently and intensely. Ionosphere, a layer of Earth's upper atmosphere, roughly 80 to 600 kilometers high, packed with electrically charged atoms and molecules where aurora collisions happen. Okay? Excitation, the process where the incoming solar electron crashes into an atmospheric gas atom, temporarily bumping that atom's electrons into a higher unstable energy state. Photon emission, that is the release of light. When a gas when an excited gas atom calms down, its electron returns to their normal state. It must shed that excess energy. It does this by spitting out a tiny packet of light called a photon. All right. So the chemistry of auroral colours. The different colours seen in the aura will depend entirely on which gas is hit and how high up the collision occurs. So pale green, that's generally oxygen atoms, 100 to 200 kilometre altitude range. So most common colour easily picked up by human eyes. Deep red, oxygen atoms, that's above 240 kilometres. Rare, occurs during intense solar storms. Purple and blue, nitrogen molecules below 100 kilometre altitude range. Rare, only seen at the low edges during active display. Pink and crimson, again nitrogen molecules around 90 to 100 kilometre altitude range, and often appear as a vibrant moving border across green curtains. So the claim that the aurora is manufactured by the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program HAARP is a widespread online conspiracy. I'd never heard of it, but it is. And it has been thoroughly debunked by atmospheric physicists and data tracking. And I'm not a physicist, not an atmosphere physicist, certainly not an expert. This is just peer-reviewed stuff I have found. You can take it with a grain of salt. I mean, you should check this out yourself. I think you should. So the HAARP is a genuine ionospheric research facility located in Alaska, operated by the University of Alaska Fairbanks. While it can create tiny localized patches of what's called artificial air glow directly above its antenna field, it lacks the power to create a global or even a regional aurora. So HAARP versus Aurora reality check. Power output discrepancy. HAARP operates on a maximum power of about 3.6 megawatts. By comparison, major natural solar storms hitting Earth's atmosphere delivers millions of megawatts of power, outmatching HAARP by orders of magnitude. Global visibility. HAARP is a single facility located in Alaska. It cannot cast radio waves across the globe to trigger auroras simultaneously in Europe, Asia, and Australia, as occurred during the massive solar storms of May 2024. Trackable cause. Satellites like NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory directly monitor the sun. Scientists actively tracking the exact coronal mass ejection CMEs leaving the sun before they arrive the Earth to ignite the aurora. So a lot of these conspiracy theorists seem to use Bible verses, goodness only knows why. I mean, but conspiracy theorists connect HAARP and the aurora to the Bible, usually relying on verses that mention things like signs in the sky, fire from heaven, shaking the heavens, or even the word harp, HARP, as an angel's harp. Look, online posts typically stitch these ancient descriptions together to argue they predict modern weather control weapons. So, look, I'm not even going to go down some of these Bible verses. You can look what this is up yourself. Look, I'll go to one. Luke chapter 21, verse 11. There will be great earthquakes, famines, pestilence in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. What the conspiracy argument? Theorists claim that glowing red and green auroras are the fearful events and sign manufactured by man-made machines like HAARP to deceive people. Well, that's a new one. So look, there's a lot of different, the context of these verses, as far as I could tell, I mean, there's a lot of other different ones. I'm not even going to go there, but like, some theologians note that these religious texts are describing natural wonders or what was perceived as divine acts or apocalyptic themes. They don't contain any technical references to radio frequencies, ionic spheric heating, or modern research facilities. There's certainly, yeah, like, unless, I guess, the apocalyptic stuff, they think that HAARP is trying to deceive people into something. I don't know. So HAARP, as I said, it's designed to study the ionosphere. It does not have that much power. It only has 3.6 megawatts. It's just a series of antennas, basically. It's originally built by the US military, okay, and it functions like a giant laboratory telescope. Instead of looking at the sky with light, it uses radio waves to sort of poke at the ionosphere and to see how it reacts. We can see the real culprits, as I've said. Satellites like NASA's SDO and NOAA's Discover track solar storms, coronal mass ejections from the moment they explode off the sun surface. We can see these storms travelling through the space for days they hit Earth. Blaming HAARP for an aurora is like watching a rain cloud approach at a radar for 3 days, getting rained on, and then blaming the neighbour's lawn sprinkler. So the tiny little bit of truth that's in this is that there is a real experiment called artificial air glow. HAARP can create a very faint red or green glowing spot in the sky directly above the facility, right? This spot is roughly the size of a thumb held at arm's length and is often said so faint it requires special cameras to see. It looks nothing like this massive dancing curtains of light seen during a natural aurora. So, artificial air glow is a localized faint light emission in the upper atmosphere created intentionally by scientists using the ground-based transmitters like HAARP. But as I said, it's very small, certainly not on the scale of an aurora. It is a controlled experiment designed to mimic and study the process that causes natural air glow and auroras. So it's designed to study. It cannot create auroras. So while a natural aurora is triggered by a bombardment of space particles from the sun, the artificial air glow, which again is extremely small, is triggered by humans using radio frequencies. It's so we can understand how this happens and also what, if any, damage might be done, anything else we need to know. I mean, so how is this artificial air glow created? So to understand how the scientists make this tiny patch of sky glow, it helps to see how they use the HAARP ionic spheric research instrument. It's a 33-acre grid of 180 high-frequency antennas. Beaming the waves, HAARP transmits high-powered, high-frequency radio waves directly up into the ionosphere, roughly 100 to 300 kilometres above the ground. As these radio waves pass through the ionosphere, they interact with the free electrons already present in the plasma, transferring energy and heating them up. These newly energized, fast-moving electrons crash into local neutral gas atoms, primarily oxygen. Just like in a natural aurora, the bumped oxygen atoms must shed their excess energy to calm down. They release this energy as tiny packets of light or photons, making the sky glow. Though the chemical reaction at the atomic level is nearly identical, artificial air glow is fundamentally different from a real aurora in scale, appearance, and duration. So, energy source. Artificial air glow, man-made radio wave transmitter, 3.6 megawatts. Natural auroras, we're talking millions of megawatts, all right? Scale and coverage. The localized tiny, so with the artificial air glow, scale and coverage is tiny localized patch directly over the facility, whereas the natural aurora, its visibility, its scale and coverage is massive, sweeping curtains across hemisphere. So visibility for the artificial air glow, typically subvisual, usually requires highly sensitive cameras to detect, whereas a natural aurora's visibility is vivid, bright, and easily visible to the naked human eye. Appearance, artificial air glow, it's stationary, faint, diffuse, red or green blob, whereas a natural aurora's appearance is dynamic, rapidly moving, dancing bands of multicolored light. So artificial air glow lifespan disappears seconds after the transmitter is turned off, whereas a natural aurora's lifespan can last for hours or consecutive days independent of any human activity. So why do scientists make it? Researchers at the institutes like University of Alaska Fairbanks do not create air glow for entertainment or weather control for that matter. They use it as a safe temporary plasma physics laboratory to study how plasma waves interact with satellites so space agencies can detect and avoid satellite collisions. They also use it to learn how the ionosphere warps and disrupts radio signals used in global GPS navigation and military communications. They also use it to generate low frequency radio waves by using the excited ionosphere as a natural massive broadcasting antenna. So they're not using it just to control, they can't control the weather. They're not using it to control the weather. They're not using it for entertainment or creating auroras. They're trying to work on helping things like, radio signals for satellites and GPS, important stuff. So while auroras are normally locked to like polar regions, severe solar storms can violently expand Earth's magnetic field, pushing these lights to places that rarely or never see them. So where you can see auroras range from standard nightly locations to rare historical anomalies. The highest latitudes, high latitude, the common zones, okay? In these regions, auroras are regular occurrence, can be seen on almost any clear dark night between September and April north or March and September south. So in the northern hemisphere, so Iceland, Norway, for example, Tromsø, Sweden, e.g., for example, Abisko, Finland, Canada, like I think Yukon, Yellowknife, and Alaska. Southern Hemisphere, Antarctica, and yes, you can travel there, and the southern tip of Tasmania, Australia, and New Zealand. So mid latitudes, which are rare, these locations usually only see auroras during strong geomagnetic storms, which are typically rated G3 to G4. This happens a handful of times per year or during a solar maximum. So in the north, southern parts of the UK, like England and Wales, Central Europe, Germany and Poland, and continental United States. States like Ohio, Oregon, or New York. In the south, mainland Australia, including Victoria, South Australia, and parts of New Zealand, South Africa, and Uruguay. Low latitudes, ultra rare zones. Seeing aurora here requires an extreme G5 solar storm. When it happens, the aurora suddenly appears as a faint blood red glow on the horizon rather than green curtains. Recent events that I could find anyway, hopefully this is true. May 2024, extreme solar activity pushed the light so far equatorially, I think, or towards the equator, that they were photographed in the Florida, US, northern India, Mexico, Iran, Queensland, and Australia. Well, that is fun. The tropics and equator, which is been called once in a century anomalies, and because Earth has a horizontal magnetic field shield the equator, aurora at the tropics requires usually a historic civilization altering solar superstorm. The Carrington event, 1859, the most powerful solar storm in recorded history, pushed auroras all the way to Hawaii, Cuba, Jamaica, and Colombia. The lights were so bright so people could read the newspaper by midnight at their glow. The 1770 storm, documented by James Cook, a massive storm blanketed Japan and China in red light and was seen as far south as Timor Island, Indonesia. The 1909 storm, a severe solar blast, allowed visible auroras to be briefly spotted from Singapore. So there's the whys and warfare, whys and hows of an aurora, where they can be seen, what they do, where they appear, and why. And guys, seriously, the HAARP array has got nothing to do with it. All right. I mean, I know people like a lot of conspiracy theories about the HAARP array, but they don't do weather control and they don't create auroras. Anyway, yet another crazy conspiracy theory. Thank you for your time.